The rain that morning fell in a soft, persistent drizzle, each drop a quiet echo of the dread pooling in Emily Carter's chest. She stood in her cramped apartment, staring out the smudged window, her hands trembling as she clutched a chipped mug of cold coffee. The babysitter's text had come at 6:03 a.m., a curt apology about a family emergency, leaving Emily with no options and a ticking clock. It was her first day at a new job, a lifeline she'd clawed her way toward after months of rejections, food stamps, and the suffocating weight of unpaid bills. Her 7-year-old son, Jacob, sat at the wobbly kitchen table, his faded backpack slung over one shoulder, his small fingers tracing the worn edges of a comic book. He glanced up, his brown eyes wide and searching, sensing the storm brewing in his mother's silence. Emily forced a smile, her heart splintering at his innocent trust. Work started in an hour, and the city offered no mercy, no family nearby, no friends with flexible schedules. She had to bring him to the office, a towering glass fortress where judgments lurked behind every polished surface. The fear gripped her like a vice. What if they saw her as unprofessional, a single mother who couldn't manage? What if this was the mistake that cost her the job she'd prayed for? As she zipped Jacob's threadbare jacket, her fingers fumbling with a broken zipper, her pulse hammered with the weight of unspoken shame, the terror of being exposed as the struggling mom she fought to conceal. Sparkles, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of compassion in this world, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Tales. Together, we can spread hope through stories that touch the heart. The walk to the office was a gauntlet of anxiety, the drizzle soaking through Emily's thin coat as she held Jacob's hand tightly. The city streets buzzed with morning commuters, their umbrellas bobbing like barriers between her and the world. Jacob's chatter about superheroes was a faint lifeline, his voice bright against the grayness of her fear. She had landed this administrative assistant position at Harris & Company after a grueling gauntlet of interviews, each one a performance, where she painted herself as reliable, dedicated, and unburdened by personal struggles. The truth was, Jacob was her everything, born from a brief romance that crumbled before it could take root, leaving her to navigate single motherhood in a city that chewed up the vulnerable. Her apartment, a one-bedroom walk-up with peeling paint, was a testament to her precarious existence. Rent was overdue, utility bills stacked like accusations on the counter. This job, with its modest salary, was her chance to keep the lights on, to buy Jacob new shoes instead of patching the old ones. But bringing a child to work? It was a violation of every unspoken corporate rule, a neon sign flashing her inadequacies. She pictured the whispers. Can't she afford childcare? Is she even serious about this job? The boss, Mr. Harris, was a legend in the firm, a man in his late 50s who'd built the company from nothing, his reputation one of precision and zero tolerance for excuses. What if he fired her before she could even prove herself? As they reached the glass tower, Emily's breath hitched, her mind scrambling for non-existent backup plans. The lobby of Harris & Company gleamed with sterile elegance, its marble floors and chrome accents amplifying Emily's sense of exposure. She wiped the rain from Jacob's hair, his curls damp and unruly, and hurried toward the elevators, avoiding the receptionist's gaze. The woman's quick glance, eyebrows raised, then softened, was a small mercy, but Emily's throat tightened as the elevator carried them to the 10th floor. Each ding was a countdown to judgment. She knelt to Jacob's level, her voice a strained whisper. "Stay close, sweetie. Sit quietly in the corner, okay?" Like a superhero hiding from villains. He nodded, clutching his backpack, his comic book peeking out, but she knew 7-year-olds weren't built for stillness. The office doors opened to a hum of keyboards, ringing phones, and hushed conversations, a world of efficiency that felt alien to her fractured state. Emily guided Jacob to her assigned desk in a corner, praying no one noticed the small boy trailing her, his sneakers squeaking faintly on the polished floor. She set him up with coloring books and a granola bar, tucking him behind a partition, her heart aching at the makeshift hideout. Every clack of a keyboard, every murmur from a colleague, sent her pulse racing. What if he spoke too loudly? What if he wandered out, curious and unafraid? The morning crawled by. Each email, she typed a distraction from the terror simmering within, a fragile dam holding back a flood of fear. As the hours ticked by, Emily's mind spun vivid, torturous scenarios. She remembered her last job at a call center, where a single day off for Jacob's ear infection had earned her cold stares and a performance review that ended in layoffs. Those months of unemployment were a blur of food pantry lines, their fluorescent lights searing her pride and late-night calculations to stretch every dollar. She'd rocked Jacob to sleep through fevers and nightmares, whispering promises of a better life while her own tears fell silently. Now, she was on the brink again, her new job a fragile thread. Jacob was remarkably quiet at first, scribbling in his coloring book, but by mid-morning his stomach growled, and he whispered for more snacks. She slipped him another granola bar, her eyes scanning the open-plan office for prying glances. A colleague, Lisa from marketing, passed by, her heels clicking like a metronome of judgment. "New hire?" she asked with a polite smile, her gaze lingering on Jacob's backpack. Emily nodded, her voice tight, forcing a smile that felt brittle. Inside, she was unraveling. Sweat prickling her neck, her mind screaming that this was the moment her facade would crack. Lunchtime loomed, and Jacob's whispers grew urgent. "Mommy, I need the bathroom." Panic surged. The restrooms were across the office, past rows of desks buzzing with activity. With no choice, she scooped him up, his small frame light in her arms, and hurried down the hall, head bowed, praying for invisibility, her heart pounding as if she were crossing a minefield. The bathroom ordeal was a microcosm of her dread. Jacob's giggles echoed off the tiles as he marveled at the fancy sink, and Emily hushed him frantically, her ears straining for footsteps outside. What if someone heard a child's voice in the employee restroom? Back at her desk, she exhaled shakily, tucking Jacob back into his corner. But the relief was fleeting. An email pinged. An urgent meeting with Mr. Harris to review onboarding tasks. Her stomach plummeted. She couldn't leave Jacob alone, but skipping the meeting was unthinkable. Whispering promises of a treat, she left him with his coloring book and rushed to the conference room, her notes trembling in her hands. The room was a glass-walled stage, filled with senior staff whose faces blurred into a wall of expectation. Mr. Harris sat at the head, his expression unreadable, his gray hair catching the light. Emily's voice shook as she outlined her tasks, her thoughts fractured by visions of Jacob wandering out, calling her name. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she answered questions, each one a test she feared failing. When the meeting ended, she bolted back, heart in her throat, to find Jacob still there, doodling quietly. Tears stung her eyes, relief tangled with guilt. How long could she keep this up? The afternoon tightened like a noose. Colleagues collaborated around her, their ease a stark contrast to her isolation. Jacob grew restless, his whispers turning to soft whines, and she distracted him with a phone game, sacrificing her focus. A critical report needed finalizing, but her attention splintered. Memories flooded in. Jacob's birth in a sterile hospital room, alone, vowing to give him a life better than her own, marked by abandonment when her parents cut her off at 18. The fear of losing him to a system that judged struggling mothers haunted her. A client email demanding revisions snapped her back, and she typed furiously, Jacob now kicking the partition rhythmically. Thump! Thump! Heads turned subtly. A colleague frowned. Her breath caught. Exposure loomed like a tidal wave. Then, the moment she dreaded crashed over her. Jacob, bored and bold, stepped out from behind the partition, stretching with a yawn. "Mommy, can we go home now?" His voice cut through the office hum, freezing time. Faces turned, murmurs rippled. Emily scooped him up, whispering apologies, her cheeks flaming. Some colleagues smiled sympathetically, others stared, judgmental. Lisa approached, concern in her eyes, but Emily muttered about an emergency, gathering her things in a frenzy. Mr. Harris's office door loomed at the hall's end, ajar, a silent threat. Had he seen? She hurried past, Jacob on her hip, ready to flee. But the door swung open, and there he stood, Mr. Harris, his presence commanding yet unexpectedly gentle. What followed unfolded like a dream. His eyes met hers, taking in the harried mother, the wide-eyed boy, the backpack slipping off her shoulder. Emily braced for a reprimand, the end of her fragile hope. Instead, his gaze softened, and he gave a slow, kind nod, simple, deliberate, heavy with empathy. "Emily," he said softly, "family comes first. Take the rest of the day if you need. We'll manage." The words were a lifeline, pulling her from the abyss. Jacob waved shyly, and Mr. Harris knelt, smiling. Who's this young artist? No judgment, just kindness, raw, real, a beacon in her storm. Tears blurred Emily's vision, her throat tight with gratitude. The healing rippled outward. As Emily left, Jacob chattering about the nice man, a weight lifted. That evening, she replayed the nod, a balm on wounds from years of struggle. The next day, she returned wary but found notes on her desk. Colleagues offering help, sharing their own parenting tales. Lisa admitted sneaking her son in during a crisis. Another colleague shared candy with Jacob. The office became a community. Mr. Harris later shared his story, a widowed father who juggled work and kids. "Don't hide your life," he said. Emily's heart mended, isolation fading. Weeks later, a critical presentation loomed. Jacob fell ill, feverish, and no sitter was available. Emily brought him, presenting with him asleep nearby. The board applauded. Mr. Harris nodded, a faint smile breaking through. Her fear dissolved, replaced by pride. On Jacob's 8th birthday, she brought cupcakes, and Mr. Harris gifted him a sketchbook, a quiet, perfect gesture. Emily's heart healed, not by miracles, but by a nod that said, "You're enough." Speech balloon before you go. Share in the comments. Have you ever experienced a small act of kindness that changed everything for you? Your story might inspire someone who needs hope. Sparkles, if this story touched your heart, please support Kindness Tales by liking, sharing, subscribing, and commenting. Your engagement helps us spread more stories of compassion and second chance.